want to be covered by the dead bodies of soldiers. Go home with your whole army.
We demand for those who took over and retained the power in Kyiv to immediately stop combat activity.
I'm authorizing additional strong sanctions and new limitations on what can be exported to Russia.
Ukraine is alive and kicking.
It's been 363 days since the Russian government launched an unprecedented attack on Ukraine, marking a permanent shift in geopolitics. While President Putin called it a special military operation, Ukraine and the West called Russia a terrorist state and accused Putin of ordering war crimes on the people of Ukraine. President Zelensky visited EU countries as well, United States seeking help, and the West has been standing by Ukraine in terms of arms and humanitarian aid. A year of constant bombing has seen wide-scale devastation and deaths, forcing millions to flee and turning cities into rubble. But speaking at his State of the Nation address today, President Putin defended the invasion of Ukraine. He blamed the West of inciting the war, saying it was the West that was encouraging Ukraine to attack Russia. Putin has also pulled out of the START bilateral treaty, which was a bilateral nuclear pact with the United States. Putin's remarks comes a day after US President Biden made a surprise visit to Kyiv and announced a new military aid package of $500 million. He also said the package would equip Ukraine with more high-mobility artillery rocket systems. As we speak, President Biden is in Poland for a meeting with NATO allies on strengthening the coalition's eastern deployment. Political observers see Biden's visit as a strong message to Putin, signaling US's unwavering support to Ukraine to fight Russia. I spoke to Ukraine's ambassador to India, Ivan Konovalov, and European Union Ambassador Ugo Astuto on 1 year of Ukraine's invasion. I began by asking them about the death toll in the last 1 year.
It is difficult right now to say and to count and to answer objectively how many losses we have. I might say so that according to different opinion, we have lost maybe more than during the 8 years war in Afghanistan, for example. It is uncountable. Every life of our Ukrainian people, every life of innocent people, innocent victim, it is priceless for us. And we definitely would like to say that we would like to stop this war as soon as we will win.
Right. Ambassador Astuto, we saw President Biden visiting Ukraine in a show of solidarity. US is stepping up military support. What is your sense on where this war is headed? Do you think that that Russia's will to continue this war is winning and we may see a solution?
Well, what I can tell you is that there is absolute unity between Europe and its allies, the United States, and within NATO. We stand by Ukraine. Ukraine is a victim of an unjustified aggression. Russia is clearly violating the very tenets of the rules-based system of world governance, violation of the UN Charter by a permanent member of the UN Security Council. It's a very serious situation. We have reacted from the start, and we will continue to do so. As we speak, as European Council is discussing about the possibility of another package of sanctions, and this will be the 10th. And these sanctions have already had a very significant effect over the capacity of the Kremlin to continue its war. So what I would like to tell you is that we stand by Ukraine, will continue to do so. Ukraine has a right to defend itself, and the war needs to stop now. The Russians need to stop their aggression and withdraw and accept Ukraine as a sovereign and independent country within its boundaries internationally recognized.
Ambassador Astuto, is a solution in sight? EU, the United States, they're having back-channel talks with the Russian government. Can any compromise be reached?
Well, look, the war could stop now. Could end now if the Russians stop their aggression. The Ukrainians cannot stop defending themselves because that would be the end of Ukraine as a sovereign independent state. So I think it's up to President Putin to come back to his senses, to stop this aggression and withdraw his troops.
Right. Mr. Ivan, if I were to ask you, when it comes to a diplomatic solution, what is the absolute red line that Ukraine would like to maintain in any kind of diplomatic conversation with the Russian government, in any kind of compromise?
As of now, we do not have any compromise. As was announced by our president, that first of all, we would like to consider the possibility to have any peaceful talks, diplomatic solution, when the Russian troops will leave all our territory to the shape of the boundaries of 1991, first of all. And right now, it doesn't matter how many proposals you will have. The matter is what Russia is doing now. If they have any intention, an announcement, just we would like to have a talks and so on, they are continuously bombing and bombarding our country. What do you think, as per your opinion, what we can do in this situation? For us, it's difficult, and as of now, we do not have any stance to negotiate.
I would also like to ask you, what does Ukraine need the most right now? You are being supported with ammunition.
Definitely.
You need air support. That is something that President Zelensky has repeatedly spoken about. Elaborate on the military needs of Ukraine currently that you've been appealing to countries for.
We need more weapon to stop this war, to finish this war, to win this war. We need, first of all, air defense system. We need long-range missile. We need heavy weapons. We need tanks, artillery, fighter jets, to make for sure that peace will prevail, and we will stop this unprovoked Russian war, and this is military terror.
On the fighter jets, any assurance coming from any of the allies?
It's still under the negotiation. We are waiting for confirmation, and we hope that it will come very soon.
Right. Ambassador Astuto, on this demand for fighter planes, President Zelensky has been saying this in every forum. They've taken this up with the European Union. They've taken this up with the United States. Any possibility of Ukraine being supported with fighter planes?
Well, look, we have been supporting Ukraine since the very beginning, in terms of, in political terms, in economic, financial terms.
And the reason why I'm asking, is it because we'd like to understand the pros and cons of supporting Ukraine with fighter planes right now?
Well, what I would like to underscore here is that for the first time in its history, the European Union has been supplying weapons. That's because it's an extraordinary situation, because we have a permanent member of the UN Security Council violating the UN Charter. This warrants exceptional measures. And that's what we've been trying to do. And as we speak, we are now discussing about the possibility of undertaking common procurement within the European Union to purchase ammunition to supply Ukraine. I cannot overstate the importance of this step and how extraordinary it is, but the situation is so extraordinary that it also warrants extraordinary measures.
Right. You're talking about a single contract that EU is likely to have for all European countries to supply ammunition to Ukraine. Foreign Minister Borrell has gone on record to say that Ukraine will lose this war if the ammunition needs are not met as soon as possible. How soon could this contract be approved? And in your assessment, in EU's assessment, what are the ammunition needs of Ukraine and how long is this likely to persist?
Look, ammunition is already supplied to Ukraine by individual member states. The point is whether we could do we could purchase in a more efficient way together. It's based on the experience we have had, for instance, during COVID in procuring vaccinations. Can we procure ammunition also together? Maybe. It's a discussion which is taking place now, but we are already supplying Ukraine with weapons and ammunition. It's just about looking at ways and means to make these purchase and supply even more efficient.
Right. Give us a sense of how you see, Mr. Ivan, the war evolving in the months to come. It's already been a year. People have been making assessments that this war cannot continue. There have been some assessments that it will continue till the end of 2023. What would be Ukraine's assessment on how long could this continue?
It is a very rhetoric question, first of all, but I would like to say that it depends only on Russia. because our intention is definitely to stop this war, to finish this war as soon as possible. Because we are ready, we are a peaceful nation. We are following international laws, the norm of international laws. We are following the UN chapters, and we would like to have this respect from the Russian side as well. In this case, as I told you before, that we would like to have our boundaries in the shape of 1991. That's it.
Right. If I were to ask you about how far back has this war set Ukraine when it comes to economic development?
We have this war from 2014, when our Crimea was annexed illegally by Russia. And this war continuously in our land happened. And as of now, we have the same situation. We have the aggression, Russian aggression in our territory. We have invaded troops, and we are still fighting for our freedom, because freedom and democracy, this is a priceless things.
What would be the economic loss? The kind of aid that Ukraine needs for redeveloping itself?
This is billions of dollars, I may say. So, because the damages which caused by Russian aggression and Russian war in Ukraine, it is countless. The energy infrastructure, civilian infrastructure, the logistic, I may say that whole cities were destroyed. They were removed from the land. They do not exist anymore. And in this case, all type of aid, humanitarian, material, technical, financial, will be welcomed. Not only from our allies, our partners, our brotherly nations, but also from peace-loving countries. In this case, we also count on Indian support. Thank you very much for Indian humanitarian aid, which were provided by the Indian government, by the Indian private business, and we count, and we wait, and we just will be welcome more support to rebuild our country.
Any specific message for India that you have been sending out on behalf of President Zelensky?
We consider India as our main partner in the global south. During this year, this is a year of presidency of India in G20. This is a window of opportunity for both countries. And in this case, we count on Indian support, and we would like to say that the leitmotif of Indian presidency in G20, like one Earth, one family, one future, it should be realized this year, and it will definitely help us to stop war during this ongoing year. And definitely we respect and we think so that the words of Honorable Prime Minister, that this is not era of war, will be realized soon.
All right, so that was the Ukraine's charge d'affaires, and also the EU ambassador stating what they feel about 1 year of the Ukraine-Russia war and how European Union will continue supporting Ukraine with arms, ammunition and financial help as well. Time for a short break, but coming up, more than 8,000 civilians have been killed in Ukraine since the war began. Discussion on the war with Vadym Halaichuk, Ukrainian Member of Parliament, when we are back.
बाकी सब बाद में पहले सुन मेरी बात रे
लाइफ के टेढ़े मेढ़े रोड पे होंगी चुनौतियां हर एक मोड़ पे
बट हमने कभी ना फिक्र की पर हमने कभी ना फिक्र की क्योंकि हमने पहले ले ली LIC
स्मार्ट लोगों की क्लियर है प्रायोरिटी बाकी सब बाद में पहले LIC
Show me the sunset. You make me happy. We wanna go there. It's beautiful. Let's go. Let's go and celebrate. I've been waiting all my life. Waiting just to celebrate this life. I've been waiting all my life to celebrate. Yeah.
Magnite.
Let's go.
Be celebrated with the big, bold, beautiful Nissan Magnite.
MCX Aluminium Mini Futures Contract 1 metric ton. Available for trading from Monday, February 20th. Refer to circular on mcxindia.com.
Indo Wind Energy Limited. Rights issue open. Closes on 24th February 2023.
Loan, loan, loan. अरे जिसको देखो दे रहे हैं लोन 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 और इसको उसको सबको चाहिए लोन लोन लोन
जो घर लेना हो ले ले लोन ले ले लोन गोल्ड लोन लेना हो ले ले लोन बिजनेस बढ़ाना हो ले ले लोन अरे लोन ये कौन सा है
कभी सही इंटरेस्ट तो बोल
कई छुपी शर्तों का झोल
अरे स्टॉप अब गोल गोल को छोड़ सुन सीधी बात के बोल अब हर सपना होगा पूरा जो तेरा है अधूरा और IIFL फाइनेंस पे है मेरा भरोसा पूरा गोल्ड से लेकर बिजनेस पर्सनल से लेकर होम हर जरूरत को मिलेगा लोन तो हुआ ना यही सही लोन IIFL फाइनेंस करता है सीधी बात
उत्तर प्रदेश पूर्वी भारत का ही नहीं बल्कि पूरे देश का ग्रोथ इंजन बन सकता है
नए भारत का ग्रोथ इंजन आपके निवेश को देगा दोगुनी रफ्तार एक्सप्रेसवे का विशाल नेटवर्क और इंटरनेशनल कनेक्टिविटी अपराध एवं भ्रष्टाचार के खिलाफ जीरो टॉलरेंस पॉलिसी साथ ही सबसे बड़ा उपभोक्ता बाजार 25 निवेश फ्रेंडली नीतियां बनेंगी सफल व्यापार का आधार आइए नए भारत के नए उत्तर प्रदेश में निवेश करें $1 ट्रिलियन इकोनॉमी बनाने में सहभागी बने
हो गया इंतजाम
किसका
गुड्डी की फीस का
दिखा 20,000 का लोन तुरंत पता है कौन दे रहा है ब्याज कितना है लोन विनियमित संस्थानों से ही लें और कर्ज उतना जितनी जरूरत वो भी जांच कर हो गया इंतजाम पगार एडवांस में भेजिए
आरबीआई कहता है
सही वित्तीय बर्ताव करे आपका बचाव
Welcome back to News Center. According to the United Nations, more than 8,000 civilians have been killed in Ukraine since the war began. And the true death toll is feared to be much higher. According to some estimates, it could be even more than 42,000. The war has tested the resilience and the strength of the Ukrainians, some of whom have been living without water and electricity due to Russian bombardment. Their leader, President Zelensky, has stood firm throughout, issuing regular updates to the world about what's happening in his country. He has also been urging Western nations to increase their support to Ukraine. I spoke with Vadym, Halaichuk, Ukrainian member of parliament, and began by asking him how does he see this war unfolding and what is the sentiment among Ukrainian politicians at this stage.
This war is for survival of our country, our nation. The reason why Ukrainians were able to resist a huge Russian army invasion of Ukraine, this renewed invasion of February last year, was because the whole country raised up. It wasn't just the army, it was every regular, simple Ukrainian who decided to do something in order to resist. If you couldn't fight for whatever reason, you volunteer, you do medical work, you help people who were forced out of their homes when the invasion happened. You volunteer in medical institutions to help those wounded. You do whatever you can in order to resist. That had the effect of uniting the nation to the point where we never felt as strong as we feel now. And of course, the fact that the whole world around us united against this brutal aggression helped a lot in terms of understanding that we will win. And Russia has no chance of reaching the success in Ukraine that they've declared. And their goals were very simple, very brutal: destruction of Ukraine.
Right.
The initial days were very, very dangerous, very scary for a lot of people, and we know that many did not expect Ukraine to last long. And Russians declared that they were going to take the country in a matter of few weeks. They were going to take the capital city, Kyiv, in a matter of few days, and march with a parade in the central street of Kyiv, in Halaichuk. Not only that didn't happen, but Russia has become a pariah state. The Russian military had shown very, very little, if any, ability to conduct large campaigns successfully, and just reinforced the Ukrainians in their opinion that we will win in this war.
I would also like to ask you about how the life of Ukrainians have been impacted. If I were to ask you about the economic loss to Ukraine, how would you describe it right now when it comes to the infrastructure loss, the setback to the energy sector, setback to the banking sector, and the economic livelihood of people? How would you quantify this loss?
One of the most atrocious things about this aggression is that Russians specifically targeted civilians and civilian infrastructure. And they don't even make a secret. They actually went public saying that by targeting, for example, energy infrastructure, they consider that a legitimate goal because electricity is used by military too. The destruction is awful. Ukraine has lost about 40% of its economy. However, even under the circumstances, the country is functioning, the government is functioning, the parliament, where I work, is holding regular meetings, adopting legislation, and the railroad system of Ukraine, for example, in the words of my colleague from Germany, is functioning under war conditions even better than the German railroad is functioning when a lot of snow falls out, for example. So the result, of course, of the aggression, of the destruction is very, very painful. However, the country is functioning, and the banking system has shown a lot of resilience, of course, due to the resolve that the country has and to assistance that we have been provided by international community.
I'd like to ask you about India's role in the crisis. India has repeatedly condemned the war, called on both sides to come to a diplomatic solution. The Prime Minister has also said this is not an era of war. The threat or use of nuclear weapons is absolutely inadmissible. But it has not directly intervened, like some of your Western allies have. How is India's position seen among parliamentarians, among politicians in Ukraine?
One of the goals that I pursue by coming here is, of course, meeting as many people as possible and explaining what's happening in Ukraine, what the reality on the ground is, but also speaking to my colleagues in the Indian Parliament here about more contacts, more connections, so that we could explain what it is that we would like for India to do more. We're, of course, very grateful for the position the Indian government has taken. It is not an era of war. We have seen the consequences, and it's not just Ukraine who's suffering. All around the world, we had seen people feel the effects in food security, in security in general. This has been a very, very serious challenge. Therefore, India, as a global power and as a country who does have a lot of influence on the decision-making process in this region globally and on Russia. We do hope that more efforts will be made in order to persuade Russian government to take seriously position on negotiations and not insist on what Russian government insists now, which is basically capitulation of Ukraine. That will not happen, to become a little more realistic. Therefore, this is the mission that we have, talking to Indian government here too, in order to help the world to get out of this crisis.
Any diplomatic solution in sight? Would the political fraternity be ready for any compromise with Russia to end this war?
Every war ends with some sort of agreement. The problem here is that there was no reason for starting this war. This war of aggression was completely unprovoked, illegal, and very little could be done now when Russia continues its aggression. We were very clear, and our partners support us in the position that the start of negotiations is possible after Russia ceases its activities, its military activities in Ukraine, pulls out its troops. Then we can sit down and talk. We really don't see any reason for Russia to insist that Ukraine poses a threat. I mean, just look at the map, look at the size of the country, the military capabilities. After all, Russia and the nuclear power is threatened by Ukraine. It's nonsense. And therefore, we're sure that the unity that international community has shown will help Russia to understand very quickly that it's been wrong. It's its assessment and its reasoning for this war, and will go to taking serious position about actual negotiations.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of News Center. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.